So it looks like Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook are having a political shift. It looks like they're going to be going towards the center or more on the right side, depending on how you look at it. We have this article from Axios that we're going to go into. He was on Joe Rogan recently, so we're going to play a clip from there that's making the rounds, and a couple of changes that he's made with Facebook Messenger and the Facebook physical location. But before we get into that, please subscribe to the channel, like and share this video if you want to support me, and let's get into this. So Zuckerberg on Rogan, Facebook's censorship was something out of 1984, which is a book that I still need to read. It's about government tyranny and government control, so definitely recommend that book. I've heard it's very good. But Meta's Mark Zuckerberg, in an appearance on Joe Rogan Experience podcast, criticized the Biden administration for pushing for censorship around the COVID-19 vaccines, the media for hounding Facebook to clamp down on misinformation after the 2016 election, and his own company for complying. Why it matters. Zuckerberg's 3-hour interview with Rogan gives a clear window into the thinking during a remarkable week in which Meta loosened its content moderation policies and shut down its DEI programs. Which, if you don't know what DEI is, that is diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's basically why a bunch of white people aren't being hired for jobs right now, such as the LA Fire Department, because they have DEI programs, and they refused to hire Adam Carolla, who wanted to be a police officer. He had to wait 7 years to be called upon, and when he finally did go take the test, he asked the black lady behind him in line. He said, out of curiosity, when did you apply? She said, oh, last Wednesday, which was like, not even a week ago. So yeah, no, the DEI programs are completely racist, and he's now removing them. The Meta CEO said a turning point for his approach to censorship came after Biden publicly said social media companies were killing people by allowing COVID misinformation to spread, and politicians started coming after the company from all angles. Zuckerberg told Rogan, who was a prominent skeptic on the COVID-19 vaccine, that the Biden administration would call up the guys on our team and yell at them and cursing and threatening repercussions if we don't take down things that are true, which is completely unconstitutional. The government cannot come to a company, a private company, and order them remove free speech. They cannot do that. The government cannot do that. That is against the Constitution. It says it clearly in the First Amendment. The government nor a third party that the government uses can censor your speech. That is unconstitutional, just outright. Zuckerberg said that the Biden officials wanted Meta to take down a meme of Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at a TV with a joke at the expense of people who were vaccinated. Zuckerberg said his company drew the line at removing humor and satire, but he also said that his company had gone too far in complying with such request, and acknowledged that he and others at the company wrongly bought into the idea, which he said the traditional media had been pushing, that misinformation spreading on social media swung the 2016 election to Donald Trump. Zuckerberg said his own company's fact-checking process was something out of 1984 and led to a broad belief that the fact-checkers his own company employed were too biased, which a lot of people have complained about for years. We've seen since 2016 people being removed, posts being removed. We had the Hunter Biden laptop, among other stories. You couldn't talk about vaccines. You can't talk about transgender stuff on Facebook. All kinds of things that you did not go to Facebook to talk about. That's why a lot of influencers now, big political commentators, you just don't see them on Facebook. It's almost impossible to post on there. At least it was. But it looks like that is changing now, and a lot of people are criticizing Mark Zuckerberg because we don't know if this is just him shifting with the wind or if this is an actual change in his beliefs, because a lot of people are pointing out that he waited for us to basically win the battle. We took X, and X has become more free because of it, with Elon buying it. A lot of people have lost their jobs and stuff over the years fighting against vaccines and all kinds of stuff, but here's Mark coming in, and all of a sudden he wants to change for the better after, it's not as hard to do so anymore. Because if he did this back in 2017, 2018, he and Facebook would have been canceled, and there would have been smears all in the media about him. But now with him coming out and saying this, there's not a whole lot of pushback. Of course there's some people upset about it, but ultimately there's not a lot of pushback. So a lot of people are criticizing him that he waited for there to be less of a resistance for him to change. He later suggested that social media creators are replacing the government and traditional media as arbiters of truth, becoming a new kind of cultural elite that people look up to. And what he's referencing there is the podcasters and stuff like that. People go to podcast and people like myself to look at the news and get the news now. They don't go to, Fox News. They don't go to CNN and stuff like that anymore. They go online and search people up, and they find people that they personally trust to give them the news. The flip side, under Meta's newly relaxed moderation policies, women can be, so this is kind of funny. So now you can make jokes on Facebook again, regardless of who they're at the expense of. So Axios is pointing out here, and they're saying the flip side, which I'm assuming they're trying to make it out to be a negative thing, but people should be able to make the jokes. People should be able to make jokes. I don't care. I think it's hilarious. Under Meta's newly relaxed moderation policies, women can now be compared to household objects, ethnic groups can be called filth, users can call for the exclusion of gay people from certain professions, and people can refer to a transgender or non-binary person as an it. Axios Inna Fried reports. So yeah, you should be able to do that. That's not me saying that I agree with any of that, but you should be able to make those jokes. You should be able to make those comments. We have the free speech. We have free speech in this country. If you're not calling to hurt someone, you should be able to say it. If you're not calling to damage someone's life, you should be able to say it. It's just as simple as that. So I think it's ridiculous to block people from calling transgender and non-binary people an it, because first of all, I mean, what else am I supposed to call you? So, because I'm certainly not going to call you by the pronoun you wish to be called. I'll call you by your actual pronoun or your name. If that doesn't work, then yeah, I'm just going to call you an it, because I'm not going to go along with that crap. That policy change unleashed outrage within the company even before Zuckerberg announced Meta would also be ending DEI programs, as Axios scooped. In justifying the content moderation rethink, Zuckerberg told Rogan that Facebook's policies would not have allowed someone to post that women should not be allowed in combat roles in the military, even though Trump's pick to run from the Pentagon, Pete Hegseth, has publicly called for such a change. If it's okay to say on the floor of Congress, you should probably be able to debate it on social media. I 100% agree with that. Yeah, that should just be common sense. If the people in Congress are allowed to say it, you should be able to say it on social media. It's that simple. If they can't say it on the floor of Congress, then you can't say it on social media. That makes a lot of sense. And then so we'll go over here to the video of Mark Zuckerberg. I'll play here. This one is from Charlie Kirk, but a lot of people are sharing this clip. It's not Charlie Kirk's clip. So let's go ahead and play this by Mark Zuckerberg and Rogan.
So at the beginning, it kind of seemed like, okay, we should give a little bit of deference to the government and the health authorities on how we should play this. But when it went from, 2 weeks to flatten the curve to, and like in the beginning, it was like, okay, there aren't enough masks. Masks aren't that important. To then it's like, oh no, you have to wear a mask. And, everything was shifting around. It just became very difficult to kind of follow. And this really hit the most extreme, I'd say, during the Biden administration when they were trying to roll out the vaccine program. And now I'm generally pretty pro rolling out vaccines. I think on balance, the vaccines are more positive than negative. But I think that while they're trying to push that program, they also tried to censor anyone who is basically arguing against it. And they pushed us super hard to take down things that were true, right? I mean, they basically pushed us and said, anything that says that vaccines might have side effects, you basically need to take down. And I was just like, well, we're not going to do that. We're clearly not going to do that. I mean, that is kind of inarguably true.
Who is they? Who's telling you to take down things that
it was
that talk about vaccine side effects?
It was people in the Biden administration.
So here, that was a clip of them talking about the Biden administration pushing them to censor things in relation to the COVID vaccine. But there was other clips as well that I wanted to play. Let's see. There was this one here. I wanted to play this one.
Would call up our team and scream at them and curse, and it's like these documents it's all kind of.
He's referencing the Biden administration. They would call up his company and scream and curse at him to remove this stuff.
I mean, there are emails. the emails are published. It's all kind of out there, and they're like, and basically it just got to this point where we were like, no, we're not gonna take down things that are true. That's ridiculous. They wanted us to take down this meme of Leonardo DiCaprio looking at a TV talking about how 10 years from now or something, you're going to see an ad that says, okay, if you took a COVID vaccine, you're eligible for, like
a class action
for
lawsuit
this kind of payment, like this sort of like class action lawsuit type meme. And they're like, no, you have to take that
so
down.
the government was trying to remove memes.
We're not going to take down humor and satire. We're not going to take down things that are true. And then at some point, I guess, I don't know, it flipped a bit. I mean, Biden, when he gave some statement at some point, I don't know if it was a press conference or to some journalists, where he basically was like, these guys are killing people. And I don't know, then like all these different agencies and branches of government basically just like started investigating, coming after our company. It was brutal. It was brutal.
Wow.
So a lot of people are saying he's playing victim now when he's been going along with this for years, but regardless if he's just, changing with the wind or whatever, I think this is a good change regardless. We have this from the Post Millennial. Mark Zuckerberg removes tampons from men's bathrooms at Meta's offices, which, why were they there in the first place? Which man is shoving tampons up there, where the sun don't shine? Like, or is it supposed to be for trans men, because trans men still have periods? In that case, they would just be a female pretending to be a male, but why are they in the men's bathroom? They shouldn't have been there in the first place. Mark Zuckerberg announced on Friday that his Meta company, which operates Facebook and Instagram, had abandoned its DEI practices. As part of that move, the company told facility managers to remove the tampons from men's bathrooms. That same day at the Meta's offices in Silicon Valley, the New York Times reported that Texas and New York facility managers were instructed to remove tampons from men's bathrooms, which the company had provided for non-binary and transgender employees who use the men's bathroom, and who would have required sanitary pads, two employees said. Look, if you need a sanitary pad, a tampon, whatever, because you have a menstrual cycle where you bleed once a month, you should be in the women's restroom. That's where you're supposed to be. So if you need that product, if you need those products, go where you're supposed to go and find them. That would be in the women's restroom. Men do not need that stuff. If you need that, it's because you're not a male. You're an adult human female, a woman. So, just because you have a mental disorder doesn't mean we need to change how we do things in society. You make up such a small percentage of the population. I'm not going to go with your mental disorder just because it makes you feel better or whatever. We shouldn't be doing that for anorexic people. We shouldn't be doing it for you. Some people could hardly believe that this had been the state of things at the social media giant. Yeah, that's ridiculous. We have it looks like the Post Millennial highlights a tweet from Tim Pool laughing about it. He says, haha, holy F, it's true. Talking about the New York Times and Disclose.tv removing the tampons from the men's restrooms. The move comes as Zuckerberg has made a sharp right political pivot in recent months. He had a meeting with President-elect Donald Trump at his Mar-a-Lago home, after which he announced a change to the fact-checking policies at Meta, announced that that the content moderation team would be moving to Texas, and said that the era of censorship on both Instagram and Facebook was over. The Times noted that the process by which these changes have been made is different than the status quo for the company. The entire process was highly unusual. The Times said Meta typically alters policies that govern its apps, which include Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Threads, by inviting employees, civic leaders, and others to weigh in. Any shifts generally take months, but Zuckerberg turned this latest effort into a closely held 6-week sprint, blindsiding even employees on his policy integrity teams. So it looks like Zuckerberg just all of a sudden was like, all right, I'm just going to start dropping decisions down from the top, which is good because these are good changes. Facebook especially had been a bastion of woke during the Trump years and the COVID era. It was in 2020 that Facebook had implemented a third-party fact-checking program that allowed groups to go through users' posts and flag these for removal or suppression that did not align with specific partisan narratives. Those fact-checkers suppressed and censored user content about the 2020 election, about gender ideology, about climate change, and about COVID lockdowns, vaccine mandates, and vaccine efficacy, among other things. So they're talking about the things that were censored on Facebook during specifically 2020. When a post was flagged by a fact checker, the user would be notified and the post would no longer be available, making it hard for the user to appeal the ruling of fact checkers. Once the fact checker made a final decision on the appeal, no further appeal was possible. Facebook fact checkers flagged, suppressed, and censored posts that said men aren't women. Meanwhile, the DEI practices inside Meta engaged in the absurd practice of providing feminine menstrual hygiene products to men. The Times stated that Zuckerberg is engaged in a spring to remake Meta for the Trump era, and there have been other vocal critics of Zuckerberg who claim that his about face ought not be believed. However, Zuckerberg vowed to stop donating to Democrat political campaigns to bring in more conservative voices at the platform, switched his own political affiliation from Democrat to Libertarian, and has revealed the extent of the censorship efforts that came from the government against the users on the platforms. Excuse me. He brought in Republican strategist Brian Baker, as well as UFC CEO Dana White, as a beginning to the platform's shift away from the left and towards the center. So if you haven't seen my video about that, I did talk a little bit about that, but this is just more information on Zuckerberg and Meta's shift politically. Overall, I think it's a good shift. A lot of people don't believe it. They think he's just trying to get on the good side of the incoming administration, which could very well be true. But at the end of the day, if that's what he's doing it for, if that's why he's giving people the freedom to speak again, I don't really care. If that's what we have to do, if that's what had to happen in order for him to change, that's fine. And then we have this from Drama Alert, which isn't the only one reporting it, but I pulled up their tweet because I saw it here first. Mark Zuckerberg removes transgender and non-binary themes from Meta's Messenger. So if you don't know what the Messenger app is, it's just the app that Facebook uses for you to chat with people, and they have themes that you can change, like Minecraft and whatever else. But there have been for years now the transgender and non-binary themes, and those are now gone, which good, because I never got my straight pride theme. So where's that? You know, I would have liked that. They can bring the transgender and non-binary stuff back when I get my straight pride theme. But anyway, so that's about it for the news right now in regards to Zuckerberg and Meta. A lot of people are talking about him right now because of his interview on Joe Rogan. But overall, I think this is a great shift for Facebook and the Meta company. And hopefully they continue down this path and don't change in the future when a new administration comes in. But with that, I'll leave the video there. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Be sure to check out my other videos, and be sure to tune in Monday. I have my first ever interview dropping with Joshua Matthew Black. So please be sure to tune in Monday to check that out. Thank you guys very much for listening. Have a good one.